Broadcasting live from Syracuse, New York, it's the PS&Ed Show. Addressing topics of public safety, education, and much more. Please welcome your hosts, Matt Mallory and Pat Kimball.
Every week. Unfortunately, it does seem like every week we have active killers around us. And
I hate it, man.
Me too.
Gotta stop it.
I like your tattoo.
Which one? Pray for peace or train for war?
Both.
I do too.
Pat,
what's going on, brother?
good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Good day for a show.
Very true, very true. Cold outside, so come on inside and watch our show. That's what we're thinking,
For
hoping.
sure.
So,
For sure.
welcome to the PS&Ed Show. I'm Matt,
I'm Pat.
and we're here to talk about active killers today.
Yeah, serious topic.
Most definitely. It's
Heavy topic.
happening way too often. It's not, and I always go into the mindset with my students and clients. I always say it can happen anywhere, for any reason, no reason at all, any place. I mean, it's just random, right? You got to prepare for it no matter where you are.
True. Yeah, that's very true. And I noticed that you specifically have honed in on a term that you'd like to use, and you always say active killer as opposed to active shooter. And I just want you to tell everybody out there why that is.
So my thought process is the concept of focusing on what they're doing, actively killing, versus the tool that they're using, such as a handgun or a scary AR, right? That to me, we got to focus on that, because the problem is them and why they're doing it, and we need to go back to that root problem and figure out what's going on, not try to ban the guns or keep guns out of their hands. They're getting the guns any way they want.
Right.
So why not focus on why they're doing it in the first place? Go back to that. Stop putting Band-Aids on it, I guess is my thought process. So active killer is what they're doing versus actively shooting, because they could use a knife, they could use a pipe bomb, they could use a vehicle, they could use a pressure cooker, and they're still doing killing in those situations.
Yeah, and it's a human problem more so than it's an implementation problem of what they're actually using, right? So I agree with that. And I also agree that it's a societal problem because there's a lot of people that are just really unfulfilled, and they're living lives that I don't think we were meant to live. I don't think people are living the way that we were supposed to originally.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of problems that come along with just the way that we are stacked up on top of each other. Everybody's breathing the same air, right?
Yep.
And everybody's...
That frustration builds in.
There's just so many ways that we annoy each other. And
there too many people get caught up on the material things. We can't take that stuff to the grave. So why do we get so caught up on it? It's more about friendships and relationships and stuff. That's why I believe that's why we're here, is to live the best we can, do unto others as we have them do unto you. And I just think that our society's been poisoned by the delayed gratification is out the window. It's I want it now, the entitlement mentality, and I honestly think that, along with just people not being stuck on the internet too much, not communicating, not just talking about things. They get frustrated, they hold it in, and then when it explodes in a really bad fashion.
well, and we're also focused on the next thing that we are obligated to do, or the next place that we have to be, or the next deadline that we have to hit, right? There's always...
We deal with that all the time, don't we?
There's always more stress and always more pressure, and people just lose the focus on the relationships and the positive things that they have in their life. And it happens to me.
Yeah, happens to me too.
I'll tell you the story of what happened to me this past week. So this past week I've been a little bit sick, and I started to get really bummed out because I was focused on, I got to come out to Syracuse, and I got to do the show, and I got all of these obligations. And I wasn't focusing in on the things that make me happy. I was focusing in on the things that make me bummed out. Yeah. And so I started to really feel that internally. Yeah. And I had to look at why, right? I had to really take it, because I was getting down. I was getting really depressed. And I was like, why is this happening? And I had to slow down and take a minute and think about where my head was, and what was I focused in on, and what was I not doing that I should be doing, which is spending time with the family, right? And doing the things that bring me joy. And what was I doing that's not healthy, like not getting enough sleep, or too much caffeine, or, writing too many lists of all this stuff, whatever it is, right? So you got to break out of that, and you got to focus on things that bring you joy and make you happy.
speaking of lists, that's one of the things that I've always done, and I don't know if other people will take this as a tip or not, but with OCD, ADHD, ABC, 1, 2, 3, all that stuff that I got going on, I'll have stuff rolling around in my head, and regardless if I'm going to do something with it or not, I write it down
just to get it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And Christy's, she knows that. So anytime I have an idea or a thought, if I'm driving, because if she won't write it down, I'll write it down while I'm driving, and she's like, "Don't do that." I'm like, "Well, help get it out of my head."
Yeah.
And I think that's one way of me coping is I'll make copious lists of just things that I have in my head, and it just helps get it out of my head on paper. And if it's a priority, then I might prioritize it or make it more of a higher echelon.
Or put it on a list where you'll find it.
Well, I got lists on my phone. I'll make paper lists. My paper lists are pretty much just something just to get it out of my head. But if I put it on my phone in a to-do list, I'll put it in priority order.
Right.
And I know the stuff on the bottom might never get done.
Sure.
And of course, that's all my wife's stuff. Just kidding, honey. Just kidding.
I've been there.
It's stressful. That's where all this gray hair comes from, right? I tell my kids it's all them. Keep having kids, right?
Oh, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? Is we have so much worry. Yeah. We have so much stress. We have so much pressure. And I'm not trying to make excuses for people that do bad stuff, all right? But what I am trying to say is that it's a human problem and it's a societal problem, and that we need to think about it in those terms instead of thinking about it in terms of what are people using.
Go back to that core. And my thought process, and this hits the nail on the head, because my thought is it could happen to anybody. I'll use this in the 2-hour free active killer course that we do, as well as the 4-hour before and the 4-hour during an active killer event. In all those courses we talk about, if you're at church and Bill comes in, you see Bill every week, and you say, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" Bill goes, "Blessed and highly favored." And then the 1 week Bill comes in, you go, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" He looks at you and goes, "Don't talk to me." Okay, Bill's just having a bad day. Bill hasn't had a bad day in 20 years. So, right? I mean, something's off. Maybe Bill lost his wife. Maybe something happened in his life that was so traumatic that he doesn't know how to cope with it. And maybe he has it in his head that I lost favor with God. I don't care about life anymore. Those are the keys. Those are the things we have to keep our eyes out for. It can happen to anybody. There could be something that's so traumatic. I always talk about the fetal position. Yep. When the crap hits the fan and you mentally can't handle it, what happens? You drop into the fetal position, right? Curl up in a ball, stick your thumb in your mouth. It happens to people that mentally can't handle the traumatic incident that they're in the middle of. Right. And other people handle it in different ways. Maybe they might not drop in a fetal position. Maybe they'll pick up a gun and go do something bad. That's where, it used to be that old term, it takes a neighborhood to raise a child, or it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. That's out the door. I remember walking down the street as a kid, and I was walking by Wayne Stuttle's house. And his mother, I'm swearing because I'm thinking I'm cool.
Cool stuff,
and his mother goes, "Matt, come here." I was like, "Oh, okay." Go into the kitchen, open your mouth. Okay. Bar of soap in my mouth. I ran home, cried, told my dad. You know what my dad did? Beat my ass. Why? Because she was right. She caught me swearing, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's no longer around, which also I think is a minute part that leads to that whole, kids just do whatever they want. They talk to anybody the way they want, and there's no repercussions for people's actions.
We talk about diffusion of responsibility, and so we recognize that, right? Yep. But we also, one of the things that we don't talk about is how many kids go home and there's nobody there waiting for them.
Or single family homes, you have single parent homes, stuff
sure.
like that.
That's how I grew up. From the time I was about 10 years old and on, right. I was pretty much in charge of taking care of my brother and sister from, the time that we got home until whenever mom got home, because dad wasn't there. So, you end up in a scenario where kids are left to their own devices.
Yes.
And if you don't have a responsibility like taking care of your brother and sister, and even in my case I still found ways to get into trouble, right? But so some people, they just don't have somebody that they feel like is there paying attention to make sure that they're doing the right things.
Somebody they feel that they have to be responsible to, whether it's a sibling or a parent that's watching over them. It used to be that, to put the fear of God into you. Right. You hear that as a kid, and the thought process is mom and dad aren't there, they can't see what you're doing, but God always can. And the kids would be like, "Oh, I got to be good because God's always watching." I mean, there's something to say about that. I mean, we use that as a punishment, not a punishment, but a way to keep kids in line with Santa, right?
Sure.
You better be good, or you're going to get coal in your stocking this year.
Right.
I mean, speaking of Christmas coming around the corner.
Yeah.
So that thought process of just accountability and respect for another person. I mean, that it's just so far gone these days. And honestly, being in the technology industry, I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, how many people sit at the kitchen table and sit there and text each other right across the table?
And they're not actually engaged in a family meal and talking about things that are going on.
And there's part of the whole anonymity, or the whole realism is lost over the internet. Just like driving, I always say to people, when you're walking, think about this. When you're walking down through a mall and you bump into somebody, what do?
Generally, I say, excuse me.
Excuse me. You're driving down the road and you cut somebody off. What do? Yeah! Right? You get all excited and amped up. Or you flip them off, or you beep your horn because they cut you off, right? Sure. Because you're behind this you're in this vehicle where the personal touch is gone. Same as the internet. Personal touch is gone. People hide behind screen names and pseudonyms and stuff like that, where they say and do things to people they would never do to their face.
Well, they don't have to see the consequence. Yeah. When you see somebody online or you see somebody on Facebook and you want to make a nasty comment about that person, and you make that nasty comment, even if you get something in response and it's also nasty,
right.
Now we're going back and forth, but there's no real interaction happening. You don't actually have to see that person's expression.
You feel safe in your home. You don't feel that emotion in the
air. You're
disconnected
from it, right? Yep. Whereas you might not say something mean to somebody at all if they were standing in front of you.
Right. And because the expressions in the face say a lot. They do a lot, right? If I say, man, don't look at me, and you're like, why, man? What did I do?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I just hurt his feelings. You know what I mean? It's that emotion, which is gone between driving a car and the internet. That's why road rage, and I think a lot of people do stuff on the internet. I mean, look at how exasperated the whole bullying has become just because of the internet. Kids making fun of other kids, and then kids committing suicide. I mean, it's bad.
Well, they all want to come out with some hashtag that other people, then it'd be trending, right? And then so we try and make up some name for somebody, and
so we're trying
to one up the next person,
trying to set their name in stone, and that goes to a thought process too. When you talk about active killers, if you look at in the courses that we do, I'll put down a bunch of events that have happened, and we don't name them in the course because we don't want to give them credit, because that's why they're doing it. They're doing it to get their name in lights. We don't want to give them that. Right. But if you notice, there was one section of about 18-month span recently within the past couple of years that there was the most amount of deaths that have happened in an active killer event. There was 5 different events that happened, and all of those 5 events were
more deadly than the previous.
Exactly, right? And all of them combined was a huge amount of deaths that had happened in those events. And it just makes you think they're not slowing down, they're not going away, they're not changing. Well, they are changing. They're changing in a more egregious way, a worse way. That now the last guy said, or the next guy coming up says, you know what, I got to beat that last guy. He killed 48 people. I want to kill 52. And then they make it a goal. What did they do? They're studying the prior guy before them to see what they can do differently.
Well, and I think sometimes the media gets a little bit crazy with the way that they cover things.
Yep. Don't let a good story, what is it? Those sayings,
don't let a good tragedy go to waste. That kind of thing.
If it bleeds, it bleeds. I always get that first one mixed up, but yeah.
So, but I think with the media, what they do is they put out so much information that somebody else can then turn around and use it to write a playbook for their own event,
And being in law enforcement, when you talk to media and they're like, "Oh, you got to tell us that it's freedom of the press, freedom of the press. The society needs to know about this. Everybody needs to know about this. The public needs to know." Well, there is certain things, if it's an ongoing investigation, that shouldn't be released,
right?
Because that could actually taint the investigation. That could actually help lead to a copycat. And that's something that you don't want to have happen. But I think we're once again in this society of that. These news stations want to get the first story. They want to get it out. They don't care. In some cases, they don't even care if it's accurate. They just want to get it out so they can be the first one to get it out. And then they'll do a retraction later, which is ludicrous. It's insane that they would think that we're going to put erroneous information out just to be the first one to put it out. It's like, wow, huh? Aren't you supposed to have 3 sources? I mean, that's how it used to be. 3 sources, 3 credible sources, that it's a true story, that's happened. and then you can run with it. Now they put it out, and then part of that's because I think talk radio is just saying how it is. It's their opinions with talk radio, and I think the news, actual media sources, they're trying to keep up with that because there is so many people going more towards talk radio because it's like-minded, right? Where news isn't just the facts. Right. News is now slanted one way or the other to push their narrative.
Well, it's like when you look at on the Sunday morning talk shows. I'm not going to say the names of Sunday morning talk shows. We all know yeah, we don't like them, first of all.
Yeah.
But if you ever watch the panel discussions that they get into about this policy debate or that policy debate, right, they always bring in a whole panel full of Democrats, mm-hmm, and they all want to sit here and talk about the issue from the Democrat point of view. And everybody seems to be pretty in agreement, but they don't necessarily give enough credit or right, even enough voice to the Republican opposition, because then they can't just label somebody as being racist or sexist or bigoted or homophobic or Islamophobic or this or that. It's a lot more difficult when somebody can articulate a position, yep, that actually forces you to think a little bit deeper than just calling them a name.
I can't remember which active killer event had happened. It was probably within the past 6 months to a year when it had happened. And one of our viewers had sent me a message saying that I should apply to go down to DC to do this panel discussion. And I was like, yeah, they probably won't accept me. It was some local newspaper, I think maybe Syracuse.com, was on this national panel, and they were going to do this symposium or something in DC with a panel of 15, 20 people, and they were going to talk about how to really solve gun violence and they call them active shooter, but events that have happened with active killers.
Well, as soon as you start labeling it as gun violence, you're not a person that I want to be trying to debate with anybody, because you've already decided what the violence is all about.
Yep. Yep.
Right? You're not talking about violence anymore. You're talking about guns.
Right.
Okay? So I think that we need to get ahead of that. And that...
No, go ahead. Keep going.
That also leads into something that we wanted to hit on real quick. I want to continue with the active killer thing, but I also wanted to hit on, since we're talking about guns and rules and legislation, things like that, this new thing that's been proposed here in New York State, mm-hmm, right? S9191 or something like that. Yeah. And so basically what the New York State Senate has proposed is that they want to enact basically a system where you have to turn over your social media passwords and your internet browsing history to the government before you can apply for or apply to renew a pistol permit in New York State.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that? I have an opinion, but what are your thoughts?
Let's go back to history. I don't see that anywhere on there.
I see this.
Shall not be infringed. So my first thought is bullshit, right? Because it's the Second Amendment, doesn't say anything about any of that. Now, granted, I think it's a push of politicians trying to find a way to fix a problem. What's the problem? Yeah, people are killing people. Okay, so infringing on people that are doing good. Somebody who wants to get a pistol license that knows they can't get a pistol license normal means, they're not going to get it normal means. They're going to go get a gun illegally.
Right.
So this isn't going to stop anybody.
Right.
That's already going to do something bad. They're already a criminal. They already have that intent. Right. If anything, it might possibly, which I'm very, 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 very vague amount, be able to stop somebody who has a pistol license who maybe went off the rails, did have some happen in their background. But even in that case, at what cost? I mean, we're infringing on the rights based on what?
Of millions of people.
Right. Trying to get ahead of something. Well, let's focus on the mental health aspect. Let's focus on actually enforcing and actually pushing the laws that are already in place for people that break the laws.
Right.
If we focus on what's already in the books and say, okay, if you do this, this is what will happen, and we're going to enforce it.
And we're actually going to go.
Because that's the problem. We don't enforce it, so people are like, I don't care. And a lot of these, even if we go back to the basic fundamentals of it, what are they doing? They're committing heinous acts, criminal activity, felonies, and they either kill themselves or know they're going to be killed by a cop, right? Or maybe somebody there that's armed. God, I hope, right? Because that's somebody there armed. I'm a huge advocate.
Well, but then we're never going to hear about it on the news is the problem.
And it won't show up in statistics. And well, you can't. How can you really get a good statistic on that? Because we really don't know how many bad guys were stopped with a good guy's gun.
Right. A good guy with a gun never stops a bad guy with a gun. Well, that's not true. It happens all the time. We just don't hear that much about it because there's a narrative that they're trying to drive.
So I think it's unfortunately where somebody said they can't, it won't happen. Unfortunately, we're in New York, and now because all three caveats here in New York are all filled by Democrats, right? All three parts of government, it'll happen. I can almost guarantee it'll happen.
There's no reason, there's nothing to stop it, right?
No.
There's definitely reasons to stop it. And my take on it is a little bit different, because I don't think that we need somebody trying to predict the future actions that somebody may or may not take, particularly based on their social media posts or what they find funny or things like that, because some of us have kind of a dark sense of humor. Yeah. And guess what? I know 100% I'm going to be on some kind of a bubble right when my time comes, because they're going to look at the things that I find funny and that I share on my social media, and they're not going to agree with it. And whoever that they're trying to create as the arbiter, their points of view and my points of view are not going to be the same or even similar.
Yeah, and then what? How do they enforce it? Do they just enforce it blindly? Do they just turn around and say, well, this one person is denied, and now what?
Now how do we appeal that process?
Right, this is my prediction. Okay, I'm not a big prediction kind of person, but my prediction is that it'll pass. The governor will sign into the law, right? And then it'll somehow get up to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court will overturn it. Right?
God willing.
That's what I envision within the next 5 years, because you know how the judicial system takes. Within the next 5 years, that'll be the evolution. So mark your calendar. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen, because we're in New York. It's going to get passed. It
has to. There's no other way.
Yeah, there's no way that they're not going to pass it.
Right.
And because they're just going to throw laws, everything they can. Look, we got the SAFE Act, and they didn't get them out after the first SAFE Act. They reelected them. So it's all New York City. It's all, the armpit of the state is leading the state, unfortunately.
It's very unfortunate, and we're losing our freedoms, and I hate to see it. So it's a big deal.
At least federally, the good thing is that we're stacking the deck on the Supreme Court side for pro-conservative judges that believe in the Second Amendment, First Amendment, et cetera. And then also the president is stacking the other judicial benches across the country, which will help hopefully turn that a little bit in our favor when states do. I mean, that's the whole purpose of separation of powers, three different branches of government, is to be able to separate that out. So if it doesn't lean too far one way, like it is in New York, eventually it gets up to the higher Supreme Court and stuff, SCOTUS, and then they can overturn stuff that just doesn't fit the narrative that the Constitution has in place.
Hopefully we get enough constitutional originalists that understand that individual liberty is it's really the most sacred ideal that this country has, because nobody else has it. Nobody else has a First Amendment. If you look at some of the things that have gone on in the UK and in Canada and in other places across the world where people have been censored because of their speech, or people are being threatened, well, even by governments that are supposedly pretty Western leaning, liberal leaning and westernized and things like that. In Canada right now, they're actually fighting the fight about the whole C-16 thing with the transgender pronouns. They're trying to make it illegal for you to misgender somebody or dead name them. Twitter now here in the United States is talking about banning people for life if they dead name somebody by using the name Matt when you want to be called Ann, right? So if you wanted to change your name to a lady's name and I used your male name on Twitter, I could be banned for life.
And that's another thing that kind of makes me wonder is how they're a private industry, private business, but it's in a public means, right? I mean, they're offering a service to the public. So what's the difference between Facebook or Twitter saying, we're going to ban you because we don't believe in your beliefs. We think what you're doing is hate speech, okay? Versus a store saying, because of your beliefs, right. We can't bake a cake for you.
Right.
We can't bake a cake for you because, we don't believe in the marriage that you're doing because that's not, under our faith. So therefore we can't bake a cake. That's not acceptable.
Right.
But it's acceptable for a business to turn around and ban somebody because they don't believe in the beliefs of somebody else.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to determine, is it a utility that everybody can use? Is it something that's public? Or is it something like a publisher where it's private? The issue becomes, if it's like a publisher, then they get to decide what's fit to publish and what isn't fit to publish. But they're also liable as the publisher. So if somebody publishes something on their service and someone else takes offense to it, they can be sued civilly because they are responsible as the publisher of the. So you see what I'm saying? So you have millions of users.
I got it. So that means every single gun owner out there should take offense to everything Twitter and Facebook does, right? That's anti-gun. So perfect. I got it. If anybody on Twitter or Facebook ever calls an AR an assault rifle, okay, or an automatic rifle, or I love America, or an American rifle, because it's not, I think we should sue them. I take offense to that.
That might be the recourse.
Because it's Armalite rifle. The company that invented in the 1950s is a civilian rifle before it became a military rifle.
True.
Bang! Right?
Back in the 1960s, people don't realize, back in the 60s, Colt used to advertise those things in print magazines. You remember those ads?
Yeah,
I've seen them.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yes, and you'd have a shotgun in the back of your truck when you went to school. It's because you're going to go hunting right after you got out of school.
Before it was ever a military tool. This thing was a civilian weapon, and now...
How have we gotten so far away,
Because we gave up the fight, Matt. Yeah. Too many people have just given up the fight, and they say, well, the price for living in a polite society is we have to bend. And it's not.
No.
The price for living in a polite society is we all have to stay out of each other's business, and the government should be staying out of our way as well.
True.
The government's job is not to run your life. The government's job is to stay out of your way and allow you to live your life uninterfered with, right?
So the question about the S9191 came from one of our viewers in the last video that or 2 videos ago that we did. So I want to thank that viewer, and we answered it for you. So please give us more feedback, give us more obviously likes and comments, and subscribe, share the heck out of this if you like what we're doing. And give us feedback. Let us know what you want us to talk about, because some of the stuff that we talk about is directly driven by what you guys tell us you want to see or hear.
Yeah, definitely. I really want more of that feedback too, guys. This show is about you guys that are out there watching it and sharing it. So anything that you guys want us to try to get into, we'll at least try to give some intelligent points of view on it. We might not cover every individual topic, and we might not know enough about a topic to really get too far into it.
But you better believe we can bring somebody in. So if there's a topic that's that's not completely up our realm, we'll bring a guest host on. And if you're somebody who wants to be a guest, on the show, then definitely we can bring you in. Yeah,
if you're a subject matter expert and you've got something that you want to talk to us about, let us know. Maybe we'll have you on the show.
You still got to do that road trip to drive a tank.
For sure.
You see all the buzz on that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Love
it's not a tank, it's an armored reconnaissance vehicle.
It was a tank, though.
It was a tank, that's right.
So at this time, also, we want to thank our sponsors, is Lee Armory. So definitely check out their AK-47s. We're going to be doing some shooting that. We're going to have the Century Arms 75-round drum magazine that we're going to be throwing onto our Lee Armory AK-47 and popping some rounds off on that coming up soon.
Very cool.
And then also you got yours in. What'd you think of it?
Oh, the flashlight from PowerTech. Yeah, it's nice. I got to get it on the charger.
So we got our little PowerTech flashlight. I didn't even have to charge it. The battery was charged. I was actually going to charge it.
The battery was charged?
Yeah.
I wish I would have known.
Slacking. I threw the battery in it, and then it worked right away. So very, very bright flashlight. This is the E9 version. So make sure you check out PowerTech. Go to their website. I know they had a Black Friday deal. It's got a little bit of DNA catcher right here. Right?
Yeah.
So,
good impact tool.
Yeah, and end cap, as well as you get the strobe and other features here with this little button there. So
comes with the pen style clip.
Yes.
They also give you the belt style clip with it.
Yeah, and then they got
lanyard ring on there.
Lanyard ring, which I've never really used the lanyard ring. So if I had another one, I might do the lanyard ring for. I don't know what I'd use the lanyard. I haven't even taken it off, but definitely the clip is always what I've always done in my pocket.
Yeah, for sure.
2 is 1, 1 is none. So I usually have 2 flashlights. So I'm glad to be back up to 2 flashlights.
I like the belt clip, and I'm actually going to be using that for a mounted application, I think.
Are you?
Oh, well, I don't know. It's good for a pocket. I got a Surefire I might mount. I don't know. I got another gun that needs a light on it, so we'll see.
And we're going to be giving away another flashlight, PowerTech flashlight, coming up next month. So make sure you get in on everything, and we'll probably do another. Well, it won't be a premiere, but we'll do maybe a live show this time if we can get it in there.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a live show, and we'll end up doing a flashlight giveaway next month too.
Yeah, and those lights are pretty effing cool. They got a lot of neat features.
Most definitely.
I'm into them. So let's get back to our active killer discussion a little bit here. We wanted to talk about the difference between some of the approaches to combating the active killers, right? So
national standards, the national curriculum, if you will.
Right. So the run, hide, fight, that's been kind of put out there by Department of Homeland Security. Is that right?
Yep.
They're kind of spearheading that one, and then there's the avoid, deny, defend kind of mindset. And
Texas State University for that one.
Okay. So which one of those do you identify with more so than the other?
Well, I'm certified to teach both.
Okay.
Both of them had good videos, good content. I have a very hard problem with the hide part of the run, hide, fight, just because I'm not a big fan of just hiding.
Right.
If we actually, there's a good video that we can actually take a pause now and play that.
My name is Christine. I'm going to tell you about the craziest day of my life. It happened when I was a sophomore at Virginia Tech. That day started like a very normal day for me. I was sleeping in, so I was about to miss my first class. My friend drove me to class that morning, and I made two decisions that seemed small but had a huge impact. One was that I chose to wear sneakers instead of my usual flip-flops, and two was that I actually went to class. This day, I ended up sitting in exactly the same seat I always did, in the back right-hand corner on the right side of the class. What we don't know is at this time, someone is downstairs, and he's chaining all 3 doors shut. There's supposed to be desks there. Oh, you guys can see. We heard the first gunshots outside in the hallway, and my teacher, she opened the door. She immediately slammed it, and she said, "Call 911." And the second that door closed, he walks in. He walks in shooting. There's absolutely no time. He goes to the other side of the classroom by the windows. He's holding 2 guns. He doesn't say anything. He just starts going down the rows of people. It's very quick. It's very loud. It's very scary. We had these very shitty desks. I get on the floor. I put my knees under the chair, my stomach on the seat, hands overhead, eyes are closed. As the shots keep going, and it's, like I said, very loud, I can tell it's getting closer and closer. And I'm telling myself, brace yourself, your turn is going to come. Now, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't think I was going to get shot, but I knew that something really serious was going on. And I knew, for whatever reason, that I should just play dead. He shoots me. The first time's in the back. And you'd be surprised, getting shot doesn't hurt that much because shock overtakes you, but it starts to like burn and really kind of seep in, and that's when it gets really uncomfortable. It's not pleasant. He leaves the first time, he goes across the hall, and while he's gone, cell phones are ringing, people are coughing, and the smell of gunpowder has like completely filled the room. He comes back. Now, this time, the shooting is more intermittent. It's slower because he's looking to see who's alive. I remember telling myself to stop breathing because I can feel my stomach hitting that chair, and I'm saying, stop, like, he can see that you're alive. The third and final time, he killed himself in front of our classroom. When the police broke in, the first thing the guy said was, "We have a lot of blacks in here." I didn't know what that meant, but when police sweep a crime scene, they have 30 seconds. If you're red, you're critically injured. If you're yellow, you'll live. Black means you're dead. In 9 minutes, he killed 11 of my classmates and my teacher. 32 people lost their lives that day.
Right. I had somebody say that, well, I'm just going to play dead. They know you're not dead. They didn't shoot you. I mean, they don't come in and just go, and then go to the next room. They don't have a fully semi-automatic gun. No such thing, right? So they don't just come in and go, and then go to the next room. Right. They come in, and it's well-placed rounds. Bang, bang, bang. So they know you're not dead. And they're, well, what do I do? And I'm like, fight? But they got a gun. Yeah, and you've got numbers, right? How many people are in the room? Right. What other tools do you have, right? I mean, there's so many things. I talk to people. I mean, what are you sitting in a chair? You got a table, right? Lamps, fire extinguishers, stuff like that. The little door jams that keep the door shut. I mean, that might be a way to deny them access to the room. So I really like the avoid, deny, defend because it gives you that it's a little bit more proactive than, you know what I mean, and then reactive. And where the run, hide, fight is kind of like in me, the hide is just reactive. You're just sitting there waiting to be found. Yeah. They're looking for you. Hiding is not, I mean, you got to get aggressive. You got to break the OODA loop. You got to jump in there, scare the crap out of them, and make them be like, right, not know what's going on. Yeah. They pick places that don't have people with firearms so they can get in and kill as many people as possible before law enforcement show up. So why not make it harder for them to kill you by going at them, right? Throwing them off their game. I always tell if somebody comes up and says, "Give me your purse." I know you don't carry a purse; you carry your purse, right? But
Yes,
give me your purse, and you just give it to them. Okay, that's good. But what if you dump it? They're not going to expect that.
Right.
What are they going to do? They're going to be like, "You're on drugs, mind blown," right?
Right.
So you're throwing them off their game. You're breaking their OODA loop. Is making them not have to recalculate what they got to do. Now they have to cognitively think, okay, oh crap, that wasn't what I was expecting. What should I do? Should I run? Should I pick up the stuff? I mean, maybe worst case they might, punch or attack you, but I mean, what was their goal? To get the stuff. So by the time they're thinking of all that, what's your goal? Get the hell out of there. Right, that's your time to get away. So that the ability to throw them off their game, charge them, multiple people charge them, throw things at them. The most recent one I heard was I sent you the one on it. It was Oakland University, right? A hockey puck. Use a hockey puck to stop the active killer. You said it earlier when we were talking with Stan. What was that?
We acknowledge the fact that we need some sort of a weapon, and the weapon that we choose is not a weapon.
Hockey puck.
Right. We acknowledge that we need something, but the something, we're so scared of a gun.
Yeah.
We're so scared of the one thing that could save our life.
Yeah.
Right? That we're going to go with a toy, sporting equipment. We're going to use sporting equipment in a fight.
Right.
No, we're not going to do that.
Or stones. You hear about the ones where the schools, so they give the teachers, each classroom gets a bucket of stones. And everybody grab a stone and shoot it at the guy shooting bullets at you. Uh-huh. A bucket of, what is this? Caveman days?
I don't.
This is biblical, right? Stone them to death. Stone them! Don't let them shoot us. Let's stone them first.
Well, what if the kids start throwing rocks at each other? What if somebody right?
It's an assault rock.
Well, yeah, it does become an assault rock at that point because it's being used.
But if it's just sitting there, is it still an assault rock?
If it's a black one.
Only. Bad rap.
If it takes one of those semi-automatic clipazines, right? I don't understand the mindset and mentality behind what they're trying to instill in our school-age children.
It's gone so far as like we had a booth at the Minorities in Criminal Justice Symposium out here in Syracuse a few months ago, maybe September. Right. And we had a lady walks by our booth, and I had a laser ammo set up with a bunch of guns and my airsoft AR, right? So no real guns, but they're all airsoft recoil guns. She walks by, she goes, oh, they're talking about putting guns in schools, and when they do that, I'm going to retire. I was like, okay, you have fire extinguishers there, right? She goes, yes. I was like, you know how to use it? She goes, well, of course. It's like, well, you're not expected to be a firefighter. It's a tool, just like a gun is. If you know how to use it correctly, it could save lives. And she's like, kind of seen a light bulb go off in her head, and she just turned around and walked away from me. I was like, people get so caught up on a gun, right? It's a tool. And there's people that are using it bad, and then there's people that are using it for good. Right. So why not have more good people out there using it closer to the kids, the target that the bad people are trying to use it to kill? Why not have as many guns in good people's hands that are trained? I agree with that because there's, it's not like back in the olden days, right? Bobby, here's a shotgun, go get it at 8 years old. Right. He goes, slays a deer. He knows how to use the gun. Nowadays, you put a gun in people's hands and be like, huh? How does this work? Yeah, exactly. Is this the best, huh? Right? I mean, you still got to have that training. So I get that. I'm all for the training aspect of it. I mean, I've trained 2 different schools in the area. Their staff, in order for them to carry, they sent them through my classes, and I gave them a certificate in order to be able to carry in the school. Right. That's smart. I mean, that's putting liability, taking liability off that school's hands because now they have trained people to actually carry.
Well, I think that's so perfect too because we're not going to take money from the school budget, say, and go purchase people firearms and start distributing them. Right. Right. But what we will do is say, hey, if you're a licensed person that has been through the correct training that's approved by the school board and that has a grasp and an understanding of the hows and whys of armed active killer defense and that understands your responsibility to protect your students and to be safe and diligent about the storage of the firearm when it's not in use, right? All of those good things. We put fire extinguishers and other things in schools, and we trust that the teachers, when the time comes, are going to use them correctly, but they're not going to kill themselves or other people trying to be a hero and put out every fire they see, right? They're not going to run headlong into the fire. they're going to use discretion.
You'll hear that too. Some people are like, oh, well, you know, if they have guns in their hands, they're just going to go run into the school trying to find the bad guy. No, that's not what we want them to do.
Right.
We want them to barricade in that room, right? Deny them access, the bad guys. And as a very last, just like we say in our Article 35 class, anybody I teach classes to. I mean, I'm going to teach a class tonight to a bunch of students to get their license. And it's going to be the same thing. Use that gun only as a very last resort if you have no other option and you feel at this exact second I'm going to die or be mortally wounded. Game on, light switch, use it to defend yourself, save your life. But other than that, if there's so many other things you can do to stop the bad guy, if you barricaded that door and that bad guy can't get in and then they finally somehow breach the window or get in through that door somehow and they're in the room, well, why wouldn't you want somebody armed there to stop that bad guy? I mean, resource officers are great, law enforcement, retired military, et cetera, are great, but what if they're on the other side of the school? We had that happen in Florida, right? Resource officers, I think, on the other side of the school or outside the school and didn't
outside
go in.
would not enter the school.
I mean, what good does that do?
A person whose job it is to run toward the sound of gunfire, and according to his own supervisor, he was specifically instructed in the event of gunshots at this school building, you are moving in the direction of the gunfire. And instead, this individual,
froze.
I get it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get shot. Mm-hmm. I get it.
But you
have a job to do.
You shouldn't be there if you can't.
If you're not willing to take a risk.
If you can't step up when you're called on, when it's time to step up.
When other people's lives are at risk,
right.
If you're not willing to put yourself out there to save those lives, then you have no business putting on the uniform to begin with.
Yep.
That's my mindset.
I agree.
Right? So, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this society where so many people are willing to give up their discretion and their freedom to make their own decisions because they think, and I didn't even tell you what happened to me at the airport.
Uh-oh.
So I was at the airport, we were talking about active killer events. I was at the airport coming back from the reunion a couple weeks ago. And I'm sitting there, and there's a gentleman, clearly a retired military guy. He's got your same haircut. You guys go to the same barber. Yeah, I mean, like, I couldn't pick you out of the lineup with that haircut, right? So this guy, he's a military guy, and he's talking to his wife and his kids, and they're talking about an active killer, like, drill at the school. And so the girl is going through the scenario and saying, okay, so we went over here, we did this. And the dad's like, well, if they would have called me and said there was an event at the school, I would have showed up with my rifle. And okay, cool. You know, he wants to be proactive. I got it.
Yeah.
And this gentleman is sitting right next to me. Clearly, this gentleman has never been shot at a day in his life. I'll put that out there right now. And I said it to him at a certain point in the conversation. He goes, I can handle the wait for the flight because we were on a delayed flight. He said, I can handle the wait, but I can't handle this conversation. Talking about the gentleman. And I said, why the active killer, the guy talking about the active killer event? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you know, he's just talking to his kids and he's just trying to instill in them the importance of having some sort of a plan. Because if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Yeah. Amen.
And I said, I want, what's the plan in place for your kids? And he said, well, the plan for my kids is to go along with what the people at the school say. And I said, okay, well, I understand that the school's got their own plan in place, and that's all well and good. And I said, but what about when that plan breaks down, right? Yeah. Because we've all heard of the PACE approach to planning, right? Mm-hmm. Primary, alternate, contingency, emergency, right? Right. So the school's got their plan. That's the primary plan. It's a good plan, I'm sure. I'm not. It's not my school, but I'm sure that they've gone to somebody and gotten, briefed up on this is what you should do, right? And so that's good, but when that plan breaks down, or when the teacher that's supposed to be orchestrating this whole shit show gets shot, right? Yeah. What are the individual kids going to start to do? Some of them are going to start to take off and just scatter. The ones that have never had a parent that's talked to them, right, and tried to put a plan into or a planning type of mindset into their head, or some idea that outside of this very well orchestrated plan are variables, right? And when those variables start to creep in and that plan starts to break down, what are we doing? Are we waiting around?
Wheels fall off.
Right, the wheels fall off the bus, and now what? And this guy's kids, the guy that's so adamantly upset about this guy, right, his kids are clearly going to be at a disadvantage, right, because he's not even having a conversation. Yeah, and this guy at least is trying to to get his children to understand they need to use their own cognitive abilities
Yeah.
and they need to have, right? There's something outside of the plan and it's called variables
Right.
and sometimes plans fail.
Yeah.
And so we
Always
need
have a
to,
backup.
right, exactly. So this guy said, well, my kids will go along with what the school says. And it says, you know, I'm sure that's all well and good, but what if your kids, or what are they going to do if they're actually the ones getting shot at? And he said, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been shot at?
Wrong person to ask that to.
I said, yeah. He said, have you ever been shot at when you weren't armed? I said, actually, yeah. And he said, okay, well, typical American cowboy mentality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's no talking then.
Yeah, no.
There's no, like, I said, look,
It's a mental disorder.
you have a certain mindset and mentality that this is what you believe, and I agree with a very different set of policies and a mindset. And I said, there's no reason for us to sit here and be assholes to each other, right? Because there's no reason for us to sit here and get into but I'm not going to change his mindset and his mentality because he doesn't see anything outside of the rules and the state and the government and somebody will protect my kids.
Right.
Well, nobody's coming to protect your kids, bro.
And you always go back to that thought process. Why do we have fire extinguishers? We know the fire
In case
department's
of an
coming.
emergency, right.
But we're not going to sit there and wait for the fire department to come while the house is burning down. Right. Just like, well, why do we carry firearms all the time? We know police are coming. But
Bad guy extinguishers.
That's good. We should make a shirt like that. Bad guy extinguishers.
Like
and we've had a couple viewers ask about us doing merch. So that'll be something that we've been talking about and trying to put something together for merchandise to be able to sell hats, shirts, etc. So some cool ideas, obviously stuff with our logos on it to help push the brand, but then also some really cool, neat shirts that'll say, you know, this isn't your mother's AR or whatever. I don't know why I keep saying that. It doesn't sound funny. It's just, you know, interesting.
You'll get there, man. Keep working it. We'll get to one.
So speaking of tools, because I kind of want to go back to that thought process. You know, this guy's mindset is you just leave it up to the school. Well, we know that you can't leave it up to the government. You can't leave it up to other people to be able to protect your own, you know, your own self-interest.
We all have to provide for the common defense.
So that being said, certain things in schools that they could use, or certain things in work and et cetera, and wherever you're at, restaurant, you know, what kind of things could you? What's on the table when you're ready to eat dinner?
A knife.
A knife, right? You got a knife. Well, even a butter knife, that's going to hurt like hell. You know, a fork. Could you scoop an eyeball out with a spoon? Hell yeah, you can, right? So is it morbid? Is it bad to think about that? Well, what's bad is to be thinking about what you can use when you're on the floor being shot at and not have thought about it ahead of time. Right. Just like Kevin Milkowski says, USCCA, executive editor, your body can't go where your mind's never been. Yeah. You're going to be ill-equipped to be able to respond if you haven't thought about it ahead of time.
If you've never gone through that mental rehearsal,
you got to get it in there.
And that planning and that mindset is another tool that you can take with you anywhere you go, right? And so when I sit down to a nice dinner with the fam at a restaurant, one of the first things that I always like to do is go over the plan, right? And so I'll identify, okay, primary exit is right over there. So in the event that we need to move out of here briskly, here's what we're going to do. April and Sean, you guys are together, right? You guys are going to punch out that way. Little man, you're with me because I can carry your butt if I need to, right? So we're pairing up because two people together might get where they're going, but we can't let ourselves get separated, right? So, and then we always have a way to get back to the car. We always have cell phones, right? So, but the alternate plan, if that exit is blocked, we're going to make a hole,
right?
And we're going to get out.
Windows.
Right.
How can you break a window?
With a chair.
Bingo. Right. A chair, or if you have a knife with a glass punch on it, something like that.
You can body breach it if you. I mean, in
really
the unlikely event, you're going to do what you got to do.
I mean, it'd be a lot better if you could just
shoot through the glass. Yeah. Unfortunately, bullets keep going.
Exactly. So other things that we talked about, fire extinguishers a little bit. We mentioned that could work. The door stops are good to be able to keep somebody from coming in the room. But 100%. Could you use that door stop, you know, as a sharp edge on it or something? Yeah, right. I mean, you could use that door stop for, you know, some sort of.
Well, a flashlight, right? I mean, that creates a tactical advantage because if I shine it in your face, it's very bright. It's got a strike bezel on it. If I got to club you in your skull, yeah, it strobes that.
That'll disorient.
That is definitely disorienting, especially when it's very bright like that, right in your face. That's
what I got on my 43 is the Crimson Trace green laser with a strobe light. So I press out right there. You got a green laser where it's going to hit, and then
And a lot of people like those lasers as a kind of a deterrent thing. And I was talking about it with that class from the other week, and I said that I'm not real sure. Yeah, the USCCA class. I'm not real sure where I landed on that because I don't know if I like it or if I don't. I think in the wrong hands, it's going to shake visibly. If you've never pointed a gun at another person, you have to trust me on this. Your hands will shake, right? The first time you point a gun at someone is not an insignificant event. Right. So your hands are going to shake to a degree. And if somebody can perceive that, it may embolden them if they feel like you're not ready to do what you need to do.
Right. So they see this laser going like this, they're going to be like...
Right. If it looks like Grandma's EKG, right, hopping all over the place.
That's good. Grandma's EKG.
That's not going to help you, maybe.
So firearms is good. Knives, obviously having a knife on you. I always have 2 knives. I always try to have 2, right? 2 knives, 2 guns, 2 less than lethal, 2 first aid items.
Right.
So that EDC mindset, because 2 is 1, 1 is none. Exactly.
And having some kind of medical kit. You mentioned medical stuff.
Like an IFAC or something. An individual
having some kind of medical kit and some kind of medical training is so important. And I carry a really basic medical kit. This is all I carry every day. I got a CAT tourniquet, a combat application tourniquet. I love these from North American Medical Supply.
Yep.
They're good. I got a cravat type of field dressing bandage. Now this is the one with the tails on it.
Nice.
That you can actually use the tails for like wound packing.
Right.
You can use the gauze on there. You can make a pressure dressing. You can turn that into a tourniquet if you need to. A lot of different uses for that. You can sling an arm.
Okay.
You can make it as an eye patch.
Right.
A lot of different ways to use it, but I love the tails because if I need to pack a wound, then I know I'm going to have a lot of fabric. And if you don't know how to pack a wound, you should learn.
Yeah. So I have my tourniquet on me all the time as well.
Yep.
And then I also usually have a pair of gloves as well as
Some quick clot. Yeah.
This is old. I should probably get something newer. This is the clotting sponge, which I guess there's the fabric now. It's better than the sponge.
Yeah, because it's impregnated. That chitosan, I can hear it kind of rattling around in there.
But another thing too, and pepper spray.
Yeah,
right?
That's huge.
Having pepper spray. You don't have to have a firearm, but knowing, I call it the MacGyver effect, right? You get your MacGyver on. Figure out what is around you that you can use to help save your life. I mean, you've got flashlights, pepper spray, chairs, knives, spoons, forks, fire extinguishers. I mean, there's so many things that can be tools that you can use to help save your life, but you have to think about it. You have to know how it's going to work. I mean, pepper spray is pepper spray, but I don't know how many people I see try to do it like hairspray. Right? And then imagine it doesn't work, or you run out, or you miss, or something like that, and then they run at you, right? I want to be able to have a plan B, which my plan B would be to punch somebody. I'm not punching you like this.
Right.
But if I'm doing it the right way, like we teach, like this, now if I spray and it doesn't work, I can still follow up with a punch and it's going to be more effective. So little things like that we teach, little tips and tricks that we teach in the classes we do, the pepper spray classes that we do, etc. That's the kind of stuff that you can get that knowledge and be able to have that in your motor cortex for when the crap hits the fan.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to just mindset, right? A lot of it just comes down to people embracing the mindset that they're going to do what they need to do to stay alive.
Yep.
And one of the things that I find self-preservation it's like people don't want to live almost. You know what I mean? Right. It's like we have just lost our will to fight, and it's so depressing.
It's good to hear you say that because it just reminded me of something else. We're going to be doing survival classes coming up. We usually do them. We try to do them a couple times a year, and one of the ones we're going to do is a winter survival. So it's going to be a winter survival where you basically get dropped in the woods, and we start talking about how do you find water, food, shelter, make a fire and stuff like that, stay warm.
Right. How do we prioritize those things, right? Because we know what we need. Mm-hmm. We know we need food. We know we need water. We know we need shelter. We know we need fire. How do those things prioritize?
Right. And they vary based on
where you are and how long are you going to be there.
And state. I mean, your first priority is first aid. If you have a first aid issue, first aid, right?
Right.
So and then they can always change. You may not have first aid, so then that's out the window, but still in the back of your mind, etc. So.
We know we need fire right off the bat because we can't stay warm and dry unless we got fire.
And purify water if we need to, and cook food. So other things come from that.
I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to help people cheat their way through the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta you got to understand where your priorities are. Right?
So be looking for that, the survival courses that we got coming up soon. And I got a promo video that we did actually last winter. That we're gonna
I remember that.
Remember that one?
Yeah, that was cool.
That's right. It was for the movie, or the TV show, I mean. Okay, so last thing we'll talk about as we wrap up here is ballistics window film. So we just got done shooting, and so let's roll that beautiful bean footage. Oh wait, wrong TV show, wrong commercial. But let's roll that footage now, and we'll show them the little bit of shooting out on the range we did with Stan.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so here we are in the range, and we're going to shoot this ballistics coated glass. We got our ballistics film on here by our trusty Stan the Man. Pat and I are going to do some shooting. So let's do it up.
Awesome. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was neat.
Yeah. The window held up. We shot, what did we shoot? 9. We shot the car arms 9. So that was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. And one of my big takeaways from that was the ballistics film actually stayed in place pretty well. The glass, was pretty well shattered.
The actual seam around the window actually gave out
Was what was failing.
Yeah,
right?
before the caulking did that. We'd hear the film tube.
Well, I thought overall it seems like a pretty cool product. Stan seemed like he was pretty impressed by it overall as far as how well that the film stayed together, and it seemed like there was a lot more integrity to that glass than there would have been without the film.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and that's the goal. I mean, it's not ballistics proof, but depending on the caliber, repetitive shots in the same place, etc., stuff can still penetrate.
Sure.
And with the ballistics film, right, the window film, it's ballistics. It's meant to help slow down more than anything. It's meant to not have it shatter.
Right.
So that way they have a harder time getting through that window. Because that's how they got into Columbine. They shot the glass, it shattered and fell to the floor, and they walked in the door.
Right.
Right. That's not a good way. I mean, glass only keeps good people honest.
Right.
That's it. So that being said, we can do the ballistics film on schools, churches, retail stores, jewelry stores, residential, government, courts, and we've done it in a matter of a bunch of different areas. We've installed the ballistics film in places like that. So if anybody out there wants ballistics film done in their location, we do that. We got Stan on staff to do that pretty much full time. He's traveling all over the Northeast installing the ballistics films. 21 mil ballistics film, and it's good stuff.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah, those active killer courses, if you guys have never been involved in any kind of training specific to the active killer events, I definitely recommend that you get some training, because it's really important, guys, to just have the awareness that these things happen to any and everybody, okay? It's not something that happens to somebody else. It's not something that happens somewhere else. It's something that can happen to any of us. And if it does happen to you or somebody that you care about, then the best thing that you can possibly hope is that there's some preparation that's gone on beforehand.
Right.
And so that's what these classes are all about. It's just about adapting a preparedness mindset over a wait and see kind of mindset. Because hope is not a plan.
Very true, very true. So Tim, one of our loyal listeners and students over numerous times, ended up giving me this book the other day to read over. So this is a book that I'm going to be reading into and checking out. It's In the Name of Self-Defense by Mark McYoung. So hopefully this will be a good read for us. Haven't read it yet, so not a full endorsement, but Tim said it's a good book, so I'm going to take Tim's word for it, and this will be one of my daily reads, plugging through, trying to get some more knowledge for the motor cortex.
Well, if it is any good, let me know, and I'll invest in a copy and read it for myself, because I'm all about that knowledge.
Super. So as we wrap it up, please once again like,
share, subscribe. Yes, please help us spread the word about this show, guys. We love this show. We love doing it for you all.
Yep. Comment, give us feedback, let us know more what you want to see, what you want to see less of.
Yeah, we want you guys to be involved. That's the thing, is I want this to be driven by people that are enjoying it, and I want it to be enjoyed by even more people. So anything that you guys think we can do as hosts to try and liven things up, or get some other guests, or get some You know, any feedback, guys, that you have is appreciated. Any questions? We're looking to put together a question and answer show.
Definitely.
Right?
That would be awesome.
So if you guys want to ask us questions in the comments on this video, that would be really good. And we'll definitely put them all together. And when we have enough to do a show, then we'll put together a whole show just based on questions that you guys have come up with and our answers.
Most definitely. So once again, PowerTech flashlights, please follow our sponsors as well. Look into their products, and Lee Armory Firearms, AK-47s.
Big supporter of the show. They've been really good to us. So
Yeah.
we're excited about them.
Until next time, stay safe.
Have a good one, guys.
Shoot straight. Thanks, Pat.
Are you prepared? Can you survive?